Well, welcome back to a living tip. We're still going to stay on the whole subject of organization because for me, this has been a major area that I concentrated on really in my earlier years of my life and developed some real skills to keep things organized so that I had the time to go do the things I wanted to do. Now, if you recall, I think one of my earlier tips, just one or two tips ago, I was saying the definition that I came up with for me for organization is sorting like items and like actions and then sequencing them so that they function properly, which means they work. If you want your life to work, you have to have the like items and the like actions in the same area so that you can actually sequence them and you can actually get the flow to work. It's like a little like an assembly line to a certain degree. But if you look at our living environments, like your house, there is a little bit of an assembly line in your house. You have certain areas you do laundry, you have certain areas you cook food, you have certain areas you store food, you have areas you relax, watch TV, you have areas you sleep. Each one of those should have like items in them, and the actions that take place in the kitchen should be in the kitchen. They shouldn't have your silverware stored in your bathroom, basically. Is that there's a different action that takes place there. And so you want to put those together. And that's what I'm saying. You're going to have a hard time achieving your purposes in life if you get up in the morning and you can't find the fork in the kitchen, or you can't find two socks that match, and you spend 10 minutes trying to match your laundry because you weren't organized enough to put it there. So I want to share a PowerPoint with you. We've talked about this before, which this is where this whole concept of life, I looked up the meaning of life and in the dictionary, and I really drilled down to it, imbuing energy into your purpose. And that really means living, is what I'm talking about. We feel alive. That's what we're talking about. So what we do, we take our energy, here we go, and we put it into our purposes and we feel like we're living. Now, there's a couple things that can happen with this. We can take our energy, we can put it into other people's purposes. And if we don't have the purpose of the other people's purpose, then we actually feel like we're dying at that point. And there's many times I've seen people at work, and I've experienced this with different jobs, where I got in a job and it really wasn't the job I wanted. I didn't have the purpose of doing it, or the job really didn't have much of a purpose to it. But I spend all my time having to be there. I can't go do the things I want to go do. I have to be at a certain time and clock in at a certain time, and I can only take breaks when it's approved and whatnot. And it's other people's purposes that my energy is going into. Okay, you're not going to feel alive doing that unless you align your purpose with those other people's purposes. The other thing we can do with our energy is we can put it into nothing. We can waste it. We can come home and plop down on the couch and we can watch TV for 4 hours. We can sleep all the time. We can get up at 11 o'clock on Saturday and just decide to lay in bed all day. We can just hang out eating ice cream. Really just being non-productive. That's the main thing I'm talking about. Even if we're reading a book, we're doing something. But if we just sit there and vegetate, we're putting what little energy we have into nothing, and then we're going to feel lifeless. We're going to feel dead. We're going to feel like life has no meaning to it. Why? We're not imbuing any energy into our life to give it to meaning. But there is one other area that I found that I had to really watch in my life, and that's what I call my life maintenance areas. Nobody gets to just run around and do exactly what their purpose is all the time. We have other activities we have to take care of. We have to do the dishes. We have to do the laundry. We have to buy food. We have to clean the house. We have to put gas in the car. All those things have to be done, and that doesn't necessarily align directly with our purpose. But the fact is, our life maintenance actions allow us to achieve our purposes if we're doing them. But one of the problems you can run into, and I watch this with other people all the time, their life is not organized, and they spend an enormous amount of time handling their life maintenance issues. An example of that is, you're out of milk, or you don't know you're out of milk in the morning, and you get up and you open the refrigerator and there's no milk, and you can't have your let's just say you had milk and cereal in the morning, and you can't have your breakfast now because there's no milk in the refrigerator. And so maybe you have to hop in the car and you have to run to the supermarket now and come back with enough milk, especially if you have a family or other people to feed. And now you had all that time you spent because the night before you didn't realize you needed to do that, or you didn't have a checklist of how long the milk lasts. You're watching it and you're going to go to a store on certain days. Other areas are things I do, like with my laundry. I make sure I have enough shirts and socks and things like that I can get through the week without having to stop and do the laundry. So I'll do my laundry on the weekends, and I always have enough. If I take my shirts to the laundry, I have enough shirts to have them at the laundry and have enough clean shirts in my closet, and I rotate them through so I know exactly where they are. But I have a specific day I will go pick those up so that I know that I can get through the week. So during my working times, when I'm trying to do the things I need to do, I'm not being distracted by my life maintenance issues. Okay? And so it's putting a little bit of a system down and being aware that being ahead of the game. Now, for me, some of the places that this really worked out, when I was a kid, my family raised horses is one of the things we did. And I had to get up every morning and feed the horses. Actually, I want to show you one more slide and I'll tell you the story about feeding the horses. So there's a correlation here. The amount of time you have is equal to the speed you move. So if you want to have more time, you move faster. And if you don't feel like you have enough time, it's because you're not moving fast enough. And how do you move faster? You get organized. That really, it's that simple for me. Now, as I was saying, my family had horses and I had to get up every morning and feed the horses before I went to school. I had to feed them at night. And what would happen is I wouldn't clean the stalls in the barn for sometimes up to a month. And then I had to kill an entire Saturday in there shoveling manure for the whole day. And it was several years. I think I was in the middle of high school, maybe sophomore, junior year in high school. I had this bright idea one morning. I said, why don't I clean the stalls every morning? It took 10 minutes longer in the morning to feed the horses and clean the stalls than it would have if I just went up and fed and didn't clean the stalls. But when I cleaned the stalls every morning, the barn was actually now, we'll say, in present. It wasn't accumulating actions I had to go take care of. So I put the organization in to actually just clean the stalls each morning. And I had all my Saturdays free after that. So I didn't have to block it off, because what would happen sometimes, because I would usually try to clean the stalls on a Saturday, and sometimes a month would go by and I have sports, I have other activities going on, didn't get it done. Another month would go by, and then, I'm knee deep in manure for 2 days trying to get the barn clean. And that was a big lesson I learned when I started cleaning those stalls every morning. My whole life straightened out, and I had control and command over what I wanted to do. My days were free. My time was my own. Another defining time for me in my life, I spent probably the first 10 years of working from the time I was about 16 to 26. I ran milk routes. My family had a milk and ice cream company, and I was on milk trucks. And on a milk truck, you got to hustle, and it's a lot of work. And the cases of milk are heavy, and you've got 120 different items on the truck, and you pull up to a store and you got to pick your orders and you got to put the tickets together. And this is back before computers, so all the tickets were longhand. And what I knew was, if I took 10 minutes longer at every stop, I usually had about 15 stops a day that I would make. That's 15 stops a day is an hour and a half longer. No, it's 2.5 hours longer. That's right. It's 2.5 hours longer getting in at the end of the day than if I was able to keep it at the time where it's supposed to be. Now, when I got back in, I'm late, and there's other trucks trying to get in the dock. That means I can't get in the dock. I can't get unloaded. I can't get the next day's milk on my truck. And then I have to go down. I have to do my paperwork. So instead of getting in, let's say at 2 o'clock, I get in at 4:30. And then by the time I'm out of the plant home at 6 o'clock, and I'm leaving at 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, I learned I had to hustle and stay on top of those actions and keep everything organized so I could pick orders quickly and know exactly how many of which items I had, so I could get them in the store and I could get home, back to the plant, get loaded, get all my empties off, get my paperwork done. And then it was, let's say, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I could go exercise or go out and do something with my friends, do the other things I wanted to have my purpose, because I got organized on those milk routes. And those were some of the things that had a huge effect on my life. A couple other examples of just organization on a broad scale. When I first moved to California, I'd grown up in Eastern Indiana and there are no oceans around Eastern Indiana. So I moved to California and I had some friends from college that had a house at the beach, and I moved in a loft in their garage. Was where it was, but I was going, I can't believe it. I get to live at the beach. How can you live in California and not live at the beach? It was just unbelievable to me that somebody would move to California and here's the ocean right here. Because I'm used to the Midwest, stuck in the middle of the country, no ocean, no shoreline, and not live at the beach. This is ridiculous. I lived at the beach for about 6 years. All my jobs were inland. And so I was driving from anywhere from 30 minutes to sometimes an hour and 20 minutes to work and back in heavy traffic every day. And after 6 years, I moved close to my work. And here was the point. If I want to go to the beach, I'll drive to the beach. But I drive to work every day. I can go to the beach on the weekend and the traffic's not that bad. But I didn't have time to go to the beach when I lived there because all the time, remember the time I have is equivalent to the speed that I move. When it's taking me an hour and a half to drive home from work, I'm not talking about the distance. I'm talking work to home. It took an hour and a half. That's the speed I could move at, versus it took 10 minutes to get home and I had the other 20 minutes to do something I wanted to do with. And so organizing my life around areas that I could move quickly between one action and another action, and that's that organization where like actions, like items are in the same place, I'm able to accomplish more because I put the things in the location where I can get to them quickly, access them as I need to. And this has been something I've been very conscious of through most of my life, on arranging things so that I could achieve the things that I wanted to achieve. So the whole idea here is to take the different actions, and we can take this, I said, down to the forks and spoons in your silverware drawer, that the forks and spoons are all in the right little slot and you can pick a spoon out without having to dig through the drawer, up to where you work and where your gymnasium is and where the ski slopes are and where the beach is that you want to surf on and where the islands are that you want to go drink pina coladas on and sit in the sun, and figure out how to organize those things so you can accomplish your purposes and you can feel alive. But a lot of life, a lot of living has to do with being organized so you have time to live and you're not sitting around sorting out socks. See you next week.